All right, so I'm just gonna call sign. We can start.
Well, hold on, wait till it goes live. You guys disappeared. Where'd you go? Okay. Okay, you are live. I will bring just let everybody in, Alyssa and that too. Okay, Andy, feel free to get started.
All right, so I'm going to call the December 11th, 2024 Akron Public Art Commission meeting to order. We're going to take a roll call of all the commissioners really quickly. So if you're here, say aye. John Fume,
Here.
Roberta Rogers,
Here.
Jessica Travis,
Here.
Larissa Brown,
Here.
Megan DeLong is absent. Stephanie Leonardi is absent. Eric Reynolds is absent. And I'm here. I'm here. I think that's all of us, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and move on from that. Thank you. Looks like we do have quorum. So first, if everyone's reviewed the minutes, Summer sends them out and I sent them out. The minutes from September 11th, October 9th, and November 13th. If someone wants the motion to approve the meeting minutes, if everyone's reviewed them and is okay with them.
I so move.
John Fume is motioning to approve the meeting minutes from September, October, and November. We get a second.
Second with Larissa.
Larissa Brown seconds the motion. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Jessica, did you say aye?
Yes, I'm sorry. Aye.
You're good. All right, so that's 5 of us. So that's quorum. So we have then approved the minutes from September 11th, October 9th, and November 13th. So from there, we're gonna move on, and Annie Wishmeyer is actually in the meeting right now. Chief Curator of Curated Storefront, and she's gonna present to us about the Running Humanoids sculpture project at Lock 3. So Annie, feel free to share your screen if you want to take over and present to us. Annie, you might be on mute.
Sorry about that. Hello, everybody again. It's lovely to see you all again so soon. In the meeting with me today, I also have Rick Rogers, our Executive Director at Curated Storefront, who has been instrumental in making this connection with the Akron Marathon and putting this project into motion. I will start by sharing my screen and share a bit about Joep van Lieshout. All right. So a little bit about Joep. He is based in Rotterdam, and over the last 3 decades, he's established a multidisciplinary practice that produces works on the borders between art and design. Van Lieshout combines an imaginative aesthetic and ethic with a spirit of entrepreneurship. His work has motivated movements in the fields of architecture and ecology and has been internationally celebrated, exhibited, and published. Internationally recognized for his immense sculpture, architecture, and accidental design, Van Lieshout aims to create an alternate utopia for the future, and in doing so, fuses function with fiction. Humor also informs an integral part of the artist's work with inventive, inhabitable sculptures that bring together functionality and aesthetic in public spaces. And by inhabitable, he really thinks that it's important that people can feel free to interact with his work. It is not something that is a hands-off type of sculpture. Specifically today, I'm talking about this body of work called the Humanoids. This is an image of a series that has been installed permanently in Miami, which is where Rick was initially introduced to his work. So the Humanoids were commissioned by the city of Miami Beach and is now permanently installed there. They are 9 large-scale biomorphic sculptures. And And this new commission for Akron would be a continuation of the same body of work, but with figures that are specific to Akron, specific to Lock 3, and specific to the marathon. Here's another image of the installation in Miami. And then I thought I would share a bit. We are a bit further along with YOUP in this proposal process than we were with Chicaya. So we already have some initial designs and a proposal from YOUP. He actually was here over the summer and did a site visit, saw the project or saw the park while it was under development, toured around Akron, met with a bunch of people, really fell in love with the city and was really inspired and eager to tackle this project and create something new and exciting specifically for us. He is a bit of a mad scientist. He really enjoys taking old broken industrial machines and bringing them back to life. And so he really resonated with the industrial past of Akron and wanted to bring some of that into this project specifically. And, you know, thinking through the idea of the marathon being representative of the larger resilience of Akron and the endurance that it takes to complete a marathon is sort of the undercurrent through this series of sculptures. So the running humanoids is what they are called. The first one, so he's imagining this as a whole series of sculptures, and each one embodying a different like emotional stage of running a marathon. So we have designs for the first two. So the first one is I Will Do, which is intended to represent the person that is about to start running the marathon. These are all larger than human scale cast aluminum sculptures. And then here's a rendering of how it would fit into the park. And so, like I said, they're meant to be interacted with. They're not necessarily just sculptures in and of themselves. They are also intended to be seating and, you know, things that you can engage with. The next up, we have the runner. So the second figure, the runner, takes its first step, still composed and light on its feet after a long period of preparation. And here again, we have a rendering of how it would fit into the park. And just to be clear, this is the location of where they are intended to go. As I said, they are cast aluminum sculptures. They have been installed in public spaces. He's been working on the series for a number of years. They're incredibly resilient. The entire maintenance plan for them is if they get a little bit dirty, wipe them off with a soft cloth. And that should be the extent of the maintenance that is needed for these pieces. So they are.
Annie, that's Main Street to the right, correct?
Yes, that is Main Street to the right. Yes, so there's this decking level right up at the top of the park that these would be in and amongst the tables and chairs that are intended to be up there as well. Does anybody have any questions? Anything else I can elaborate on?
I have a quick question. Cast aluminum is heavy, right? So they're like heavy sculptures. I'm just worried about the decking material. So I'm sure this is a question for another department who's going to be maintaining the decking and things like that. But I'm assuming there might have to be something coming up through the decking to support it so it doesn't actually bow, because a lot of those wood decking planks are actually fairly long. And so I'd just be worried about like damage to the new decking or how that's going to work in terms of like aluminum and other things like on top of the wood. So I was just curious if you guys took that into consideration or talked to any other departments about the bearing capacity of the sculpture like on the decking.
Absolutely. We have been working with Olin, the design firm for the park, to make sure that the proper footings would be put in place.
Oh, nice. Cool. All right. So so would it be sitting inside the decking then if you're putting in like footings, like so it'd be bearing on the soil or and then come up through the decking or?
I'm not quite sure exactly what that is going to look like. If it's just going to be footings that would be supporting the decking material, or if it would be cutting into the decking and putting.
And then, yeah, like a rod coming down or something. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. It looks cool. I really like the designs, actually. I like the Akron Marathon is like obviously beloved by the city. I like the Running Man one in particular.
Yeah, the marathon, that's their favorite one so far, too.
Yeah. Could see why it's big promotion. Yeah.
Oh, I was just wondering how picture friendly will these be? Can like kids go by and pretend they're running and the size of it and everything?
Yeah.
Do you think it's good for picture taking for kids?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was something that I failed to mention. The impetus for wanting to commission these sculptures from the marathon was they wanted something that could become an iconic thing that people would go and take their photos upon the completion of the marathon. So these are specifically intended to be for photography and marking occasions and things like that. So absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
So just, I was actually with Rick last week in Miami and had the pleasure of walking the Collins Garden and seeing some of Jupe's work, which is absolutely impressive. And I also like the fact that it's sort of functional at the same time. My only comment, I don't know, you can't tell in the designs. But certainly some of those in Miami had a place you could tell like where you were supposed to sit. So it's a little bit of a concave area. And my question is, that's going to be a place for the collection of water after a rainstorm, something of that sort, which then tends to sort of starve off people wanting to sit there or what have you. And I don't know if that's been taken into consideration as part of the design.
That's a good point. That's something that I can definitely bring up with you. We haven't discussed that yet, but I think that's an excellent idea and something that I will raise with him.
Yeah, because we're not going to. I doubt that there's going to be a crew out there every day that's going to clean those off or what have you. But I will tell you, they're absolutely beautiful, and I think it's very appropriate given the the impact of the marathon on the community, the new Lock 3 Park, and how beautiful it is. And I could not support this more. So
Great, thank you. I'm glad to hear that.
Larissa, just go ahead. You guys have any comments you want to share?
I was looking at, just when she was showing the drafts of it, are all the humanoids gonna be, I know because of the metal and everything, are there any color, any of those to those? Cause I know I hadn't seen those in other places, or will they just be
These would just
Sorry.
be in the cast aluminum, like
cast
the
aluminum?
ones in Miami. He tends to stick with materials in their raw form rather than a lot of decoration. And this also does help make them easier to maintain because there isn't a paint coating on them.
It looked like some of those have like texture to those.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of texture. The way that he works is he'll make a full size or full scale sculpture. Usually he's working in plaster, and that those are then cast. So he likes the imperfections that are sort of inherent in that process and leaves them be. I mean, they're polished to a certain extent to take away any like rough edges, but he likes those imperfections and the sort of palimpsest of the process.
I'm
I have a
sorry
quick
if I
question.
missed it, but was there any other sculptures or were like a plan B or anything else? Like were any other art considered for this project?
Well, maybe Rick can jump in and speak about the selection process for this. This was not like the Chicaya selection where there was a committee that was convened. This was something that was that was selected by the marathon. And so Rick is the one that's been leading those conversations with the marathon. So I don't know, Rick, can you speak a little bit about how that process worked? Oh, except Rick is actually calling me on my cell phone right now. So I'm guessing that that is not going to be the case. Let me see.
I'll speak to that for just a second. With
Sure.
the Shakaya, Booker, and some others that the art task force worked with, it was a whole group of us, and I actually sit on that task force that kind of did the selection of different artists. With this one and the marathon, since they will be funding it, they're able to select who they want to bring that artwork here versus the Akron Civic Commons. It was a whole selection process. It was all these different artists. We voted on all these different artists, and then we came down to like 2 or 3 different artists that we would select. Because the marathon is paying for this, they probably just, who they wanted in. Oh, I'm sorry, Rick is coming back, and selected them.
Yeah, Rick said he wasn't able to unmute. like maybe he's trying. I don't know, is it a sharing issue? Does Rick have permission to unmute himself?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
You can also share.
Yeah, he says he's not able to unmute, so I guess he's having some technical difficulties on his end. Let's see, I guess I'm not sure what the solution here is.
I think just my personal opinion, the selection process, I think the artist, given like the motion of the sculptures and what it is, and just the mock-ups already, I think it's pretty appropriate for where it's being displayed large, being able to pose with it with the Akron Marathon. I can tell they put like a lot of thought into it. So I'm okay with the artist selection.
You guys hear me?
There we go.
Yeah, I can hear
All
you.
right. I don't know why I wasn't able to get unmuted before, but good afternoon. I'm not sure I got the whole question that came up, Andy or Summer.
Oh, it was just a question of
Jessica.
if other artists were considered, sort of what the selection process was with you.
This was the process started back when Dan Horgan was mayor and Steve Marks. There was a piece of art just to the south of State Street, the State Street entry to the stadium, that the marathon had installed when it started, and that piece of art became it didn't wear well over the years, and it was in disrepair, and they wanted it to deinstall it and look at another piece of art. And Steve approached us to help with the selection process, and we brought, I think, 5 artists initially to the marathon and narrowed it down to 3 finalists, and then we got to Yoop as the preferred artist that the marathon wanted. The marathon start and finish is being moved to Lock 3, and they wanted to have a piece of sculpture that, I mean, Annie described this earlier, that would be very representative of running in a marathon, and that could be something that was iconic and would be known as part of the marathon. So there was an artist that worked in brick, and he was from North Carolina, and there was another artist from New York City that we had considered in the process. And I believe that Yoop was in the group, the 10 finalists. Annie, for the overall selection for Lock 3, just the generic artist for Lock 3. So there was some crossover between those 2 selection processes. And any rate, this is who the marathon. I mean, I reviewed this. Both Ann Batong and Steve Marks at the marathon have reviewed this, and we're enthusiastically supporting it. I've had it in front of the city, Susie Graham, and the county, and they both were, I'd say the county executive and Susie Graham were both pleased with the artist. So I think we have a solid choice that's been properly vetted by stakeholders in the community. You guys being the final say.
So Annie, will the wording be somewhere on those as we go through it as a series?
Yeah, we haven't finalized how didactics or like what a label might look like yet, but these all have those titles. And I think that it is important for their clarity and for the community's understanding that those titles be included in the installation.
Yeah, and the marathon wants that. Yoop's vision, I don't know if you said this, Annie, was that he's actually run marathons himself. So he had this idea of representing, the person at the start of the race who's got all this confidence that they're going to complete it, the runner going through it, and then the person that's, the Janice that's at the end that's trying to finish it and is, struggling to get across the finish line. And, a lot of the runners actually end up laying down when they're finished. So he wanted to represent those phases of the race and the pieces that he created.
Gotcha. John actually has to leave soon, so I was wondering if everyone is okay or comfortable with it, if we're okay with like calling for a vote on it. I'm definitely in favor of it, but I guess we would need to make a motion to approve this. Everyone hopefully reviewed the submittable that I sent out, and then also saw Annie's presentation. So if we want to go ahead and make a motion, it'd be up to you guys.
I motion that we put in place for, are we going to start the process and approve the running? It's called the humanoids. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah.
The running humanoids for the structure for the Akron Marathon down in Lock 3.
So Larissa Brown motions to approve the artwork and selection for the running humanoid sculptures at Lock 3. Can we get a second?
Roberta Rogers seconds it.
So Roberta Rogers seconds the motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Annie, will we get to see the other mark?
Jessica, did you motion? I'm just curious. Were you not in favor?
You're on mute.
Jessica's not in favor.
No,
Okay.
I'm not in favor. Sorry.
So we might have to wait for additional commissioners maybe if we want a motion since we only have 5 of us today.
Summer, I don't know if we need to do that, do we? I think it still passes with the majority, right?
We only have
Yeah, it's if it passes
Quorum.
with the majority. Yeah, so it's 5 of you and 4 was a yes, 1 was a nay. You could open up for discussion. Jessica, did you have any more questions? But yes, the 4 approved it, so majority won.
Jessica, did you have any other questions or is it just the design?
I think not necessarily issue. My concern is if we're going to put something in the public, I feel like the public should have had more like input or insight of, this is what you're going to see every day when you're walking by. Like I understand city officials and their place and their roles in it too. But like, I just want to say if this is going to be a public thing, I feel like the public should have more input and more say in it. And to say that since another company has funded it, they pick this person, they're picking something to go into the public without the public's input or, feedback. So it's like, in the end, it's like, why make it public if the public didn't matter in this situation?
Yeah, I can respond a little bit to that. So I definitely understand that concern, but really as the Public Art Commission, I think anything that comes before us is not always going to have the opportunity to be vetted through the general public. Because if you think about it, any artwork is on public property. And so it's always going to have some sort of relationship to the general public. So whether it's a mural on a wall in a park or even over at a community center or something of that sort. And I think in this situation, especially if we take a look at Lock 3 Park and what some of the goals have been of Lock 3 Park and the artwork and last month when Annie presented about Shakaya Booker and the quality of art, and you take a look also in regards to what has been accomplished with the artwork on the walls of the Akron Civic Theater. I think, and this is a missing piece that I would not expect Rick and Annie to come to the table for this, but what we're actually accomplishing here with working with these artists is actually creating a incredible focus of the city of Akron, showing some of the finest artworks from artists from across the world. And so there's a lot of other positive runoff that can come from that. So I think this is a situation where because the Akron Marathon Charitable Corporation is funding it, it's not necessarily the kind of project to say, hey, we need to bring in community members and things of that sort. So I think this is more about the fact that it's quality sculpture, quality art. It's going to benefit the entire community. And I think this is just one of those situations where we need to trust that the appropriate work has been done. And I think, when we take a look at it from a design standpoint, from a care standpoint, all those things that we're supposed to be looking at, this project definitely checks those boxes. And so I think it's beneficial. I understand your point, but I think there's other projects where we're just doing the traffic boxes or whatever we want to bring in the community in a more broader sense. But in this situation, especially given the fact that how it's being funded, I think this is a home run.
It
Yeah, I would
can,
also note too that I just want to comment, it's going in Lock 3 in downtown, not like in an individual ward or community. So it's something for the whole community. It's not something that's going to like a local neighborhood park either, where you might see something from like more local artists. And I kind of agree with John that bringing more art from around the world or regionally here that's recognizable is just going to create more opportunities for recognition and funding in public art and general awareness. So I think that more art's going to create more positive for everybody, including the local artists here. Um, Although a local Akron artist might not have been the one to create the sculpture. I think it's just going to help us create more awareness for the Public Art Commission overall, which will have like a filter down effect for everybody.
Okay, I understand what both of you guys are saying, and please don't think that like my voice and what I'm saying has anything to do with the artists or the sculptures. That's not my issue. That's not my issue at all. I think I'm more into like I understand wanting to bring education and bring awareness of other artists, but I don't feel like just as a resident of Summit County that we are so embedded with art that we are being taught what artists are doing, other artists. And so when you put somebody that don't nobody know about, and we're not going to, our children is not going to go to school and then learn about that person. Like, there's no avenue to like really expand, but to like have it show up. Like, I guess like if it's showing up, then you can learn more. But I don't think we just at the point in Summit County where art is being taught and art is being it's like a top. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling on my words. Like I said, I have nothing against the artists, nothing against the artwork. I do strongly still feel like if something's gonna go in the public, I feel like the public should do have a little say. So because they're the people that gotta walk by it, see it, drive by it, and all that stuff. And I understand it's not gonna be in the ward, but it's gonna be in a very public place where everybody comes to, not just ward people. Everybody comes downtown. That's what downtown is for. Um, so that was just my little
Jessica, I think your point is well taken, and I think where the opportunity lies, and it's not in the oversight of the commission, but the opportunity does lie for what other could be Arts Now is a good example, and potentially other arts organizations, and maybe even the civic and the lock in the city itself to be leveraging the artwork, all of the artwork there, and telling the story and sharing it with whoever the constituents are that want to learn more about it and things of that sort. So to your point, I think there's that opportunity to really strengthen that. And I think it's a very good point. So, and I think maybe what I'm also hearing you say is maybe there needs to be some narrative created of how this was chosen and why, and how does it tie into that entire area. And we should be, not us as a commission, but I know Curated Storefront and Annie in particular will help with this to be able to provide that information. And I think Downtown Akron Partnership would be a great partner in all of that as well, to explain that. So I think it's a good take.
Thank you, John. That's exactly what I was trying to get to. I'm sorry that it was
Yeah.
took all those avenues, but I'm very
No, I get
passionate.
it.
Like I said, I joined this committee because I want to be, the voice. Like I want to be the person that help the
Yep.
people that are not here at this table. So I don't
Yep.
mean to like cross nothing, but thank you, John.
No,
You know
no,
this
and
perfectly.
and we can all be cheerleaders for that, which has been Summer's goal is for this commission to be cheerleaders for arts and culture in all facets. So we can all be cheerleaders for that. And once this is in place, we can all come together and talk about how we can make that happen. So unfortunately, I need to head off to another meeting, but thanks everyone. Good to see you. And Summer, you and Andy we can follow up on that other concern. So,
Sure.
Sounds good.
Thanks,
Thank
John. We'll see you in January.
okay, bye.
Have a good Christmas.
Bye.
Thanks.
Happy holidays, I should say. All right. All right. So Annie and Rick, is there anything else that you want to present before we move on?
Well, it just for clarity is, can we tell the artist that it's okay to proceed at this point with a contract, that you guys are good with it? And can you
Yes,
hear
did you
me?
guys review the maintenance plan? Was it,
Yeah, so the maintenance plan was just that it would be wiped off occasionally. Like it's since it's cast aluminum to resistant to the weather, it's not pitted and it's already like slightly polished, so it seems safe to sit on, and they would just wipe it off. And John asked about the maintenance plan in terms of water collecting in concave areas, which Annie said she was going to follow up on. And so I think with that, we all were okay with it.
okay, yep, that's good. Yeah, we can proceed. If you, once you guys get your contract and everything, if you could maybe forward me a copy of the contract and their insurance, just so that we can keep it on file. As well as Annie, once you guys do the Chicago Booker piece too, I meant to say that before. If I can get a copy of their contract and their what is it, the declaration page of their insurance, just so I can put that in my file.
Absolutely, we can provide that.
Okay. But congratulations.
All right. Well, thank you all
Thank you
so
very
much.
much, guys. Appreciate all
You're
your help and your appreciation for the arts. I think it'll be something we can be proud of in Akron.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Rick and Annie. We appreciate you guys. Feel free to stay on, or feel free. I can't even talk at all. Apparently, feel free to jump off, and
Okay.
we're gonna move on. So, thanks.
Thanks, guys.
All
See
right.
you.
Thank you all.
All right. So next we have Mac and Elise here to present an update and show us all of the wonderful work they were doing with the public art database. So Mac, Elise, feel free to take over, however you please.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Hi. Good to see everybody. I will mute so that I'm not echoey.
Oh, that's okay. I'm just glad to have Elise back over here too. It's good to see everybody as well. Happy to share a little update on the inventory. I'm going to pull up a share presentation right now. And so I'll walk you through this. Shouldn't take all that long, but it is wild actually how far we've come since we last shared and presented with all of you. So a lot has, just in like the last 2 months, has been added to our local arts landscape. We've tried our best to be very proactive to capture it. So like this Darren Fletcher portrait at the Ed Davis Community Center, which just opened, I think, this past weekend?
Yeah, last week.
Yeah. So we've been hustling to do our best to make sure we hand this off to you in as up-to-date a way as we possibly can. So we've captured that, but this is one of the things that is so wild about everything since we last connected. The inventory has almost doubled in size. We are well in excess of 700 records, and a lot of it is through word of mouth and just discovery. As you may recall, we had a couple parks we needed to visit last time, a couple fire stations. While doing that, we were referred to other things that people were not aware of. And so the inventory has grown, which is a great thing. It's even more diversity of public art. We have actually more detailed photographs of this public art than our GIS system and Esri can actually like count. It just says you have more than 2,000 in terms of the detailed photographs, but we have almost 1,500 high quality photographs, which would be the primary ones that would go on display. 86% of the items.
Question
Yeah.
for you. Sorry to interrupt. Did you, and I maybe we'll ask about this too, and I know we're meeting on Friday, but for the photos, you're just saving them in the actual GIS database at this point. When we have a talk with the city, I'm going to talk to them about storing the photos in like a separate file format. I'm not going to go into like too many details about that, but it might make more sense to link to them, kind of like provide a link out, because storing all the photos is going to be like really expensive. So whatever you implemented, maybe we could talk about it on Friday or something. But I'd be interested to see, because I think we're going to stack up on photos real quick. I didn't think about that.
No, that's actually a really great point. I'll get to this in just a moment, but one of the things that we're going to talk about right now is kind of our curated public facing display of the map. And so with over 700 records, we don't want or need to share all of those publicly on the public art database. Some of those things that are city owned or on city property are not always in the best condition. or maybe need to be deassessed. So what we do want to focus on the public facing side of the map is the things that we want people to go visit, that we want people to celebrate and to be aware of. And so that's something we're going to be looking for some help from you on after this. So in terms of where we are now and what remains, we have some outstanding records that we're doing some manual data entry for right now and just refining. I'm going to be sharing with you the story map here in a moment, but it is still a little bit raw. But what it does have is over 200 items that we have already selected, like pre-selected just for consideration out of the 700. And what we would like to do following this whole meeting today is basically give all of you an Excel spreadsheet that shows some of these to figure out from yourselves which ones you would like to share, publicly, which ones you think merit it. For example, like we have a lot of wrapped garbage cans around Akron. Some are really beautiful, but do we want that to be a feature of the public art map? So we've got the curation of the public facing story map, which we're going to look to get your input on. On Friday, we're meeting with the Information Technology Division to talk about just handing over like all of the data over to the city so it can be stored internally. This will allow the city to basically facilitate any needs that you have in terms of analyzing the data or updating it in the future. We also want to make sure that we are collaborating with them to overlay ward maps so that that kind of information can be clearly pictorially represented when people interact with this story map. As another option, if the city has a layer of the neighborhoods, which I'm sure they do, that could be another way where we could sort this data in the future and send out some reports to people, if just to further guide tourism and neighborhood pride. But that is all stuff that is actually respectively down the future for the Art Commission if it so wishes to do. The other thing that we want to do is put together a final report. So that would be our key takeaways and insights for you. This would be a document that we would share with you about some areas of need, some areas of potential focus, and just some of the key insights, priorities for maintenance, maybe gaps in the community for consideration of future public art investment. But you're all doing, you're aware of some of this, but I think this is going to add an extra dimension to it. So once those utility box wraps are in there, you can start to see where there might be some other gaps. And just discussing some of these pictures here very quickly, we've been to Morgan Park. We got Dara Harper's installation there that was actually recently opened up this summer as well. I wanted to share a quick anecdote that we were contacted by Goodyear regarding an article that a news publication is working on about their lighter than air divisions. I think it's the 100 or 150 year anniversary of the Goodyear blimps. And so they were wondering, where is their blimp art in Akron? And so they weren't contacting me on the basis of the inventory. This was just a referral. But it was wonderful to be able to have done this project and to point them in the direction of about a dozen different locations across the community where blimps kind of appear in public art. So in the future, that's something that we can refer people to the Art Commission for, to this database for. On the bottom left down here, I just wanted to call your attention because it was another kind of remarkable discovery while we were doing this. This is a Don Drum sculpture that sits behind the STEM school, what used to be the Museum of Innovation. It is entirely enclosed in fencing, and it's currently kind of a recreation play area for the kids who are there. That sculpture was donated to the city of Akron in the 1950s, I think 56, and installed maybe in 61. Technically, I believe it is currently on Akron Public School property, but this is a city of Akron asset and the public doesn't have access to it. It doesn't quite feel right for it to be the lone asset in the middle of a recreation space. So it could potentially be relocated to another more publicly accessible spot in the future. And I imagine a lot of ward leaders would relish the chance to have this gigantic Don Drum in their backyard.
Yeah, I just
so to
picture
say.
them arm wrestling over it, and that's what happens in my head, that they're arm wrestling over this giant sculpture.
In terms of project updates, I wanted to share, because this inventory has been growing so much, we actually introduced a new category. We called it collections. And part of that is because so for example, Bruce Gates photos in City Hall, there are so many of them. We're individually itemizing them because some are a little more sun bleached than others. But there's over 100 of them on city property and in city hall workspaces. I think they could be considered a collection. But I'm not sure if you were all aware that the Akron Police Department has a museum, the Akron Fire Department has a museum, and the Water Department has a museum. Now, these things might not be considered artwork in the traditional sense, but they are cultural artifacts. And in some of these cases, there are handmade, artisanal made elements, such as wood carved piping that used to be along some of the water mains, or carvings for signage that used to adorn some of the fire departments. We're not, I don't think, so we don't have the capacity or the time with this grant to individually itemize every single piece, but we want to log it into the database as a collection for future consideration. Also the Polsky building. There's a lot in storage down there. If you get the chance to go to Lock 3, I encourage you to check it out. There's some really cool blasts from the past there. But that is another thing where we will itemize things individually, but it's important, I think, to also just know that there is a kind of trove of arts and cultural artifacts in some of these locations. Um, the idea of a living database, I know you are all aware of this, but this was created with the idea that this can grow, it can be updated. We're going to do everything we can to make it as complete as possible when we hand it over to you. But just as an example, the floral sculpture on Mullen Hawkins has been knocked over and reinstalled 2 times over the course of this inventory, and now it's been removed entirely. So there will be some things in this inventory where we'll have to decide whether or not we want to keep it in, or it deserves to maybe be updated for next year. We also have 2 recreation centers that are currently in redevelopment, and certainly there will be new public art assets at those that should be in the inventory. The utility box project. There could also be additional historic signage with the bicentennial. So these are things that I just want you to keep in mind as something that maybe can be worked on next year. There is still sometimes occasional vandalism. Actually, one of our sculptures over on East Cuyahoga Falls Avenue, I drove by yesterday and it had been tagged. Now it has an anti-graffiti coating, and I'm going to go up and wipe it off. But I just wanted, those things will happen. That's part of this being a living inventory. So even though we're coming towards the conclusion of this project and handing everything over to you, we'd very much like to help or keep in mind in the future if there's something we can do to maintain this inventory or update it annually. We'd be happy to partner with you on it. There's also the aspect of telling the story of Akron's public artworks. This inventory has the title, the artist, where possible, the date of installation for a lot of this work, but it doesn't always tell the story. And as you may recall, a lot of Akron's public artwork doesn't actually have informational signage on it. To find the titles of some of these pieces, we've been doing desk research to identify who the artists were, what the titles of them were. Andy, your reference to the Summer 3 Lock experience, I mean, man, that program is responsible for so much art around
Yeah, we
Akron.
made a lot. I can point to everything it's crazy. As soon as you post up a summer arts experience thing, I'm like, I worked on that. That's cool. I know people who painted that. That was like my era. So
I think Elise spotted you in the informational sign underneath the mosaic that is in the halls of City Hall. I could be
maybe,
wrong
yeah.
about that. Yeah.
There was a few,
Uh,
I was on 3 projects, but I also helped, I helped with like a lot of the administrative stuff too. So I was like often carrying stuff or helping out the projects, even if I wasn't painting. So I love that program.
So in the process of doing this work of finding the titles, we also find some of the stories of these projects. And I just wanted to put it on your radar that we have found that when you include informational signage with a little of that, some of that story in there, I think it does engender more appreciation of public art. And I also think it wards off vandalism because people tend to understand that there were people connected to this, that a vandalization of a piece of public art isn't just that, but it's also an affront to the individuals and the community members who created it. So something to consider in terms of long-term maintenance. And then lastly, that within, and Larissa, I'm not sure if you were in the art commission when this first started, but the scope of this project is contained to city-owned, city-funded, and public art that is on city property. Over the course of this, there's a lot of public art, publicly visible art that is not part of this inventory, such as the things that are in the libraries, the things that are in the public schools, The two large murals that are in Lock 4, that those are civic, those are owned by the Civic, and they're maintained by the Civic. So that's something to consider in terms of as a public facing map. If you want to create a tour for people, if that's something you want to open it up to or expand the scope of in the future, I just wanted to add that in there because, you know, if you were going to pick like your top 20 or 30 pieces of public art in Akron, there would probably be a few that would come to your mind and maybe to some others that are not city owned, city funded, or on city property that could still merit sharing with the public. So actually, before I get to this is a very short presentation. I'm going to take you into the story map itself so you can get a little preview of that. Well, I will talk about it here as I kind of get into it. Any
Mac,
questions so far?
Mac, while you look for that, the question, you stated that what's not going to be in this inventory is art from the library and the Civic Theater, right? But you still have photographs of all of it, right? So I
Not of
think you
it.
took of the art museum. I thought you took no,
So we
not
have
the museum, the libraries.
we have pictures of some things from the library, but for example, like we didn't go and inventory everything in the public schools. The library has a massive art collection. When we
You did it
originally
on the
scoped
outside of the land, right, where the city owns, like
some of it,
the big
some of
green
it,
frog, Highland Square.
we did not inventory that. Well, did we? Is that frog in there? I believe that that's library property. If I'm mistaken about that,
We can always add it, yeah.
Okay,
But
because I think
I
that
don't,
sits in the right of way.
yeah, we can look on the map. On the maps that we had, the libraries weren't noted as city land. And we know that everything inside the library is library property. But if the things that are on the outside, like Highland Square, for example, has not only just the frog, but they also have the Don Drum on the by the entrance, by the door. That's on the sidewalk. Like, is that library or is that
Let me
city?
confirm that because I know like within the right of way, if it's a 4-lane, if you're in the middle and it's 33 feet from that lane to the sidewalk, that's like right of way. So that's like city property. Or 25 feet or 20, I think it's 25 feet from the middle lane on a 2-lane. But let me double check before you guys go back out and do all that.
Yeah, Summer, I would be interested, and I'm sure we have to talk to legal about this, but it'd be very interesting to come up with an agreement to be able to just inventory some of these publicly facing art pieces. And I think it would be great to actually just reach out and see if we're able to partner with like the library, some of these businesses, the Civic Theater officially, like in an official capacity, just to have the rights to take the photos and present them on our art database. We could always create a separate category or field, talk about stuff that's just city owned versus non-city owned things. It would actually add an extra aspect to the public of what's owned versus not, which is another question that could be answered with the database. So it is kind of a public concern. So if somebody's like, who owns that? It would actually be nice, you know, to say, oh, the Civic does own this, and then present it in the database. And that would be useful information to the public as well about what the public owns versus doesn't, or like the stuff that's along the Ohio and Erie towpath, like the Ohio and Erie Canalway Coalition owns that or doesn't own that. And if people have a question about it, which I've actually got several questions today, like after I presented, it would be interesting for people to be able to go to the database and see whether something, who it's owned by or who's responsible for maintaining it. So if we're able to officially go and catalog those things or get entry to do that and can partner with them, I think it would be useful to eventually add some of that stuff to the database. And I think it would be nice and public facing. To add public facing art going forward, but that's just my opinion.
Well, Andy, you hit it right on. I think Mac and I have talked about that too. Like down the line, we're doing the public art right now, but down the line, I would like to I'm one person, I'm not a commissioner, but down the line have a private owned section. So anyone that's traveling to Akron can just come right to the Public Art Commission, search for who they're looking for, and it'll be public and private. But that's down the line and we need some more
Well,
money.
yeah,
So,
even then
okay.
too, we have the 15-year plan with arts and culture. It would be interesting to see if we could expand this database that's created, what we're able to do with it. And down the road, after it's been used a little bit, and maybe we get some like research reports or some media press on it, what we can actually integrate into it beyond public art as well. Since public
Right.
art's only like one of the priorities, if there's any cultural artifacts, could we add those as well, right? And make it like an arts and culture public database or something along those lines. I'm not something that is like it has to belong to public arts. That's just my opinion, though. I mean, everyone else has their opinion on it. So, um, that's just my thoughts. I also would be very interested. I know you talked about maintaining the database. I'm a public person and I have money to spend on stuff. I would be very interested in getting a student. Not this is me personally from the MIS department at the University of Akron and who's like interested in analytics and geographic stuff and like sponsoring them to like work with you guys or something to like maintain the database too. We're also to help develop an app with the GIS department in the city of Akron to like create an entry form so that people can submit, photos or like a mobile application. I know how to develop these things from scratch. I would love to work with a student on it to get like college credits or something, have like an official project under their name and get to work with you guys. So I'd be interested in talking about that if you guys are interested at some point in summer, working with the GIS database to see if that's a thing where the students would be able to work with the IT department. I'd be willing to like fund that potentially for like a summer project. I think that'd be cool. So
Oh, he said he'll fund it, Matt. Okay, let's move on because we need to do a
I heard
hard
it.
stop at like 5:20. So it's recorded. Andy's funding. Okay, so Matt, go ahead with your presentation.
Okay. Well, just to say, thanks for sharing. That always was the original vision of this project. I think just given the budget and the initial gift that was given to the Art Commission, this was a great first step forward in terms of starting to get all of this together. So everything in terms of just for those who weren't part of this in the beginning, the things I'm going to show you here in this story map are all kind of individual pieces that can be embedded into your own Akron Public Art Commission website. So it doesn't have to be a separate page. Currently, that's what it is living as. But what I'm going to show you here is just a few different of the elements of what can be embedded in. If this was a story map that you wanted to put on your website, you could have everything, like the banner, this navigation over here, these little scrolling animations, all of that could be just embedded directly into a page on your website. We could customize the copy to say whatever you want. Currently, right now, what you're looking at here is just the 200 featured items that we selected, and they are sortable by ward. I have a bunch of things open on my browser right now. So this would allow you to basically go in, take a look at anything in here. We can actually customize this with the GIS department in terms of what you want to display. But so you get a little sense here of some of these things. Obviously there's some stuff here where this is going to be part of the discussion, like it's this beautiful West Hill mural. It's getting overgrown pretty quickly. So some things maybe we don't want to necessarily share. What do we have over here in Highland Square? Oh yeah, these little like
That's
tile
actually
characters.
been maintained, Matt. The overgrown.
What was that?
All that's been cut back.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, sorry. I mean, it's amazing what the city does just already in terms of maintaining public art. We can't be everywhere at once, but these things are happening and taken care of. And I think that's something long term that people will also see with this inventory. And we've found that databases like this improve people's awareness of what's around them, but also helps them appreciate the work that goes into maintaining those things. One of the things that we were talking about doing with the public art inventory was having more of a map. So this is actually like a tour. There are a few different ways that we can lay this out. Currently, it has 200 things in it, which is a lot. And we're still adding some titles to some of these. But just as an example, this is from the fire department museum. Oh, sorry, that's the police station museum. So, this is a collection. We don't necessarily know if we want to put it in there, but that's why it doesn't have a title on it right now. There are some murals in some of these locations, and I will share that some of these photos, Andy, to the point that you were saying, right now the default on this story map is it's showing the last edited photo. So in some of these cases, it might be a detail image. but we have full scope images of all of these. Hence, they're just being like this detail image from Archie the Snowman. So we're going to curate these photos based on your selection of your preferred sites to feature and to celebrate. But we have a mix, memorial plaques to public art pieces, to things like the skate park. Like there's some interesting thoughts here, and I look forward to getting your input on the types of things that you want to showcase and lead people to across the community. This is out by one of the ball fields in Ellet. And so there's this aspect, which we will refine with you. I am going to have to scroll forever here to get to the next aspects here. So bear with me because I'm skipping past 200 things. We've titled and
That's a lot of
identified
art.
the artist. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So if you haven't seen it yet, we did another project going across all 31 communities in Summit County to try to find one art and culture artifact to put on a map. And I will tell you, we have some communities in Summit County where it's a little hard to find something other than a war memorial, or a graveyard. And so we have an abundance of riches here in this community, and I think that's they'll become more aware of that. I left this in the story map, but this is something that maybe could be just internally facing for yourselves in like a password protected page. But this is the complete inventory. So all 700 items are here. And so if you wanted to look at just where the memorials are, you could go and see that. And if you wanted to also look at like the condition, and you wanted to just see like where the damaged pieces of artwork are. Now, these would not be on the public facing side of the story map, but for yourselves internally and for the city, this is very helpful information because you can go through and see, well, is it damaged because of vandalism? Is it damaged? Is it rusting? Is it broken? And there can be categorical solutions where we can address some of these repair and maintenance needs at a lower cost because we can identify which ones have a similar need and get more work done in a shorter time frame. So that's what I wanted to share right now from that. So as I had kind of mentioned, coming from this, we're going to share an Excel spreadsheet that will have this list of 200. We'd love for you to talk amongst yourselves or just individually take it on. Cross out anything that you don't think merits consideration. In the meantime, while you're doing that, we're going to be continuing to add the titles and artists to as many of these pieces as we can. And as far as our next steps go, we are meeting with the IT team on Friday to discuss handing off the data to them. We should have a lot of these titles completed by then. This is a living database, so other things can be added if they need to be. The discussion of what is city-owned versus not, I think, is an ongoing one. We will not have answers to all of that in the next week or in the next, before the end of the year. I think what we've been discovering, at least in talking to like Dan Rice and the Ohio Near Canalway and Howard Parr and like the Civic Theater, is that there's some old and historical agreements where sometimes the city funded some things that are not on city land, that are maybe not city owned. And so there's a question, I think, there on what do we do about it? Like Betts Cemetery, which is a Revolutionary War hero cemetery in Chapel Hill. I don't think I think it's private land. I'm not entirely sure. And so some of these things are a mystery, and we just don't have the capacity to chase down necessarily all 700 of these in terms of completing this project on time. However, it is something we would love to work with the Art Commission on ongoing in the future.
Yeah,
And we would
I
love
would
to work
say
with
that
students.
I mean, Mac and Elise, I don't know what I expected, like when it started in terms of like the work that was going to be done, but the level of detail that you guys went through kind of blew like what I expected, like out of the water personally. So you guys are doing great. I
Thanks,
yeah,
Andy.
Hey, thank you, Andy. Appreciate that. So we'll finalize those items for this, and I think there'll be some interesting conversation with the GIS team about what they can do with some of this granular data. We would love to line up a time to schedule a training and review of the guidelines for the inventory. We can give you just some basic ideas of how to use the digital tool if you were to do it yourselves in the future, if you wanted to just use that survey. Kind of as Andy said, apps can be used where It's just a form. And if you were to revisit any of these sites, you could just give an update on its condition. And what we can also do is, let's say we're able to schedule a training and guidelines presentation with half of you. We will record that and we will try to present it in a way where it can be shared not just with the other commissioners this year, but let's say like 4 years down the road. So it can kind of be a comprehensive reference point for everybody.
Yeah, and for that point with the training, I did send out an email with a Calendly so you can choose. I know I've gotten responses from John, so if you want me to resend it or if your email didn't come through, just let me know and I'm happy to do that just so we can try to get as many people in the room at the same time as we can.
I'll check again. I don't know if I got an email actually. I check my email like all the time. I don't know if I got it.
Okay.
I'll check
Oh,
real quick here actually.
okay. And we can follow up offline too.
Okay.
So that's really all I had here to share today, although I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has here. But I also just wanted to give a little shout out to Andy because we had what I understand is the first public presentation of the Public Art Commission to Leadership Akron, and he did Andy did an amazing job. It was really wonderful to watch people's eyes open and to start to hear and understand the opportunities and the issues that you were all taking on. And I think it was a really beautiful thing. And I think you're going to find more support coming from things like this in the future.
Thank you, Mac, for having us too. I feel like a proud mom. I was so proud of Andy. I just wanted to go up there and hug him, be like, "Great job, son." But
Oh,
yeah, that guys, he did a great job. And if people are asking questions about who is the Public Arts Commission, he's still the deal. So now we just got to take off and do what we got to do and keep on pushing forward so that we can get more money to do the things that
money,
we
yeah.
love to do. So yes, thank you, Mac. Thank you, Elise. This has been an experience, especially going out with you guys, to just walk around and learn. I'm like, I live here and I never knew that behind Callis Towers, there was a beautiful mural and a basketball court and a pickup. Like, it's gorgeous, So thank you for taking the time to take me out to do it. This right here, I think, is going to be the next step for greatness. When they did the cultural plan, the first three things was, one, getting the commission started. Two was art inventory. So we've knocked out, and I can't remember the third one, but I think we already checked the third one out too. So just thank you guys so much for your hard work and your dedication to art. So
Thank you for
I'd like to
trusting us
say
with
too,
it.
I
Like,
don't
it's
think
been
that
a great
a database
project.
like this exists in other cities. Like, I don't think one with the level of detail that you guys captured exists. So I'm excited. Like, I'm gonna get research published. I'm going to publish research on. I'm gonna use it. It'll be cool. I'll put your
I
guys'
love
names.
your enthusiasm, Andy. Just
Um,
gonna take that with me through the holidays. It will get me through to the January. I'm just gonna take it from you and put it in me, and this will be
I'll
great.
send you guys the research paper. Like, I'm gonna do something with it. I'll get a student to write a research paper on it too if I don't have the time. So
I love
we'll
it.
do it.
Well,
No,
I
but
will,
wait, before you go in, I just want to say thank you for trusting us with this. Like, this is, Summer, like you said, this is a huge step forward for you guys as a commission. It can inform everything that you do moving forward in like a kind of comprehensive way. And we just feel really grateful that you trusted us to do that for you. And we are always here to help, to answer questions. We're right down the street on Main Street. I know last meeting, John was like, how will we know if we've missed something? Mac and I constantly talking about, I'm like calling him, I'm like, hey, did you see? I was driving down blah, blah, blah. And did you see that there's a thing? And did we got to get a picture of that? So we can't even help ourselves. So we're here
You're
for you
addicted
guys with,
now.
we're
Yeah.
addicted and we're here for you with whatever you need moving forward.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that Larissa, Roberta, and Jessica have a chance to comment on anything that they wanted to comment about on your presentation. So, Larissa, Roberta, Jessica, feel free to take over.
Well, I hope by now Mac and Elise already know how I feel about them. They know they're amazing. And this is definitely a amazing project. And I feel that potential of it growing to something even bigger is gonna be, and then that Akron started it. That's gonna be the that's gonna
Yeah.
be the kicker. So I appreciate you guys. You know I love you guys and continue to like fight for us and do that hard work for us. We definitely appreciate it.
Oh, and Mr. Roberta, I just want to say you did wonderful job. But quickly, for Patterson and Reservoir, I know they probably have some things in storage, which would be great for you to include while they're being rebuilt. And the library, they have their personal collection of photos and prints and paintings and stuff that they lend out to people to take to the home. So they probably have a list. You could include that. And then my other thought was Tangiers, those old photos of all those famous stars. If it would be possible for you to get that, that would be wonderful.
You know, Roberta, well, Jay, first of all, thank you so much. The feeling's mutual, and Roberta, absolutely, we would love to. I do think the things with the library and the schools, that's something that we'll have to find a way to do an addendum for or something like that in the future. We very much want to do it, but a lot of time and resources have kind of been poured into getting this. I think this inventory is probably 3 times larger than anyone was expecting. And that's a beautiful thing. It brings awareness and elevates so many more artists and voices and historic touch points across our community. And it's really, it's pretty widespread across the wards. So I think there will be opportunities to apply for grants because like you said, we've asked, we don't know any other city that has a comprehensive public art inventory. They tend to be a little territorial and kind of like, I mean, there's still great ones. Like Mural Arts Philadelphia has an incredible inventory of its mural program, but it's not the same thing. It is a kind of tourism driven thing from a singular organization, whereas this is capturing hundreds of years of history. I was actually just telling Summer Hall, the boy and girl with the umbrella at fire station number 2, that's currently in storage. And so I got to check it out because it's, they put it away for the winter. But that was given to the city in 1880. And then it was installed at fire station number 2 in 1921. And we still don't know who made it. And so it's kind of interesting to go back and look at some of these things. And I think with the bicentennial approaching, this will be a wonderful thing to raise awareness of and celebrate. I think there'll be a lot of grant opportunities. And hey, Andy, or any of you, I think we've been invited to speak at Esri's Global User Conference before. That's the company that makes the software we're using. I think this merits an application in the future. I think a lot of other cities would, this would put them on the map. And we're not just talking US. That's a global conference. And I think a lot of people would really appreciate seeing this.
And being someone that's not from Akron, just going through and just seeing the different art. I work for the Akron Public Schools, so a lot of the art that we have on the wall, I think a lot of the things is looking at the history, and that's why I was really interested in making sure that they had those wording and the captions on there, because not being from here and looking at all the different art and what they're coming from, even the art that we just have. I'm at East High School looking at the art pieces that we have in our main entry that was donated. And it was donated by Don Drum too. So those are the things to looking at the connections of what we have. Woodrow Nash donated one of the bus heads. So knowing those histories and looking at those pieces and parts of art, one of the biggest things, I had to find it, like I said, I'm not from Akron, but they had the Akron sign in front of the Akron Family Restaurant. And that's one of the things that my daughter and them had to go take a picture of, and from Wash. They had to put their picture. Didn't even know that when I looked at the information about that sign, they actually had the reason they did it because their name Wash is actually a part of it. We didn't even, that's just that little piece of art that in history that we didn't know about. So little things of that nature that, I think too, like Andy was saying, not only we need to do a research paper, right? It might need to be a book that now we can put these pieces in here and then have that being part of a research piece for students in the area.
I'd love to get a research paper out and have been like the first. We got to get to across the finish line, get our names on it, and like publish novel research. And like Akron did this,
and put your book together and everything. So now, guess what? That's gonna wait, Summer. That's gonna be our money maker when we start selling the history books to come back to the commission. That'll be it.
Bring back the summer art experience. How awesome would that be?
That'd be cool.
You guys are making history, and let's just, hey.
It's a really special program. It's amazing to see the contributions it's made across the community. So
I'm gonna have to jump off because I gotta go start a basketball team.
Thank you, Larissa.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Larissa.
you. Yeah. obviously, if you guys want to follow up, I was completely serious. Another thing in
Oh,
my head is the University of Akron does a systems development project yearly, and they bring someone in from around, and they have the students actually prepare a project, and it's actually the capstone project for the management information systems, and they develop a system. Like one of the last ones they created was a medical form for one of the departments of the University of Akron, and to essentially capture records or like survey records, you know. And so I think it would be a cool systems development capstone project for the MIS students because they're always looking for a new one every year. And this would be a good candidate. Maybe integrating like ArcGIS Survey 123, but also maybe creating a system for like a review process because we wouldn't want people directly entering through Survey 123 into the database. We probably want to curate how the things filter through. So the records and information would have to be filtered in and then eventually stream to ArcGIS. So I think it'd be interesting to look into creating an application for that. So it'd be interesting to connect everyone with Dr. McHenry over at the University of Akron and seeing if this would be like a candidate for the systems development capstone project that we do every year. So
Need you to write your thoughts down, Andy, because you have a
I will.
lot of
Yeah.
thoughts. Write them down so we can check
I'm just
the
excited
box.
for this thing to be. I'm going to play with it. So
Okay.
We can't wait. Well, I'm gonna follow up with you guys. Andy, I'll probably go offline with you to see if the email came through for you, because if it didn't for you, then it wouldn't, it may have just been blocked by a spam or something.
I'll
okay,
resend
yeah.
it. I'll resend
Yeah.
it, Elise.
Awesome. So we'll
Okay.
get on calendars. We'll get this to the finish line. My last tiny fun anecdote talking about fire station number 2. I got to go to the fire museum, which is in Ellett on Emmett Drive by the Fulton Airport. It's tucked away. There is no signage. You can go in whenever you want. It is free and open to the public. They were so kind. I found photos of my grandfather, who was a district fire chief, he is 93 years old, getting into so much trouble still. I found photos of my grandpa on the wall from like a long time ago when he looks just like my cousins, all the way up to when he retired as a district chief. And it was so special to me. And I just made my whole year. So that's all.
That's cool. That's so cool.
Do you
All right.
guys have any other questions for us before we hop off and let you guys wrap up?
I don't have any other questions for here. I'll talk to you guys probably
Look
on
at my
Friday.
grandpa. That's my grandpa.
Thanks.
So what is the next step is we'll be meeting Friday to talk to GIS. And then when do you think you'll be to turn over, like, sorry, when will you want to meet with the commission again to turn everything over? Or
Honestly, I think like if we can get the training on the calendar, that will be outside of a commission meeting. Once we do that, we will be pretty close to wrapped up and everything
Okay.
will be able to be, if you would like us to come back and present again in January, we're happy to do that. That's up to you. Mac, do
okay.
you agree?
I do. I still would like to share those like 200 candidates as like a spreadsheet for like the public facing side. But I will tell you that just in terms of using this already so far, 200 is too much. I think it would make more sense to focus on maybe 25 to 50 at the start. The ones that are truly the most excellent, outstanding. We'll focus on making sure we have all the relevant information in the database for that. And we can
Mhm.
always grow beyond that. But I would want to make sure that this is a really clean, like very high quality experience for first time users. And so I think if you we'll share the 200 with you, but if you trust us, what we might start to do is start to just kind of curate it down a little bit ourselves first to make sure we have equal representation across the wards, but also like the highest quality things to send people to. And we don't want to exclude anybody in doing this. You'll always have access to the whole thing, but it'll be a starting point, like we said, for this living database.
Sure. Awesome. Well, we really appreciate you guys. We do have a few extra things to move through pretty quickly. So as always, we appreciate you. Feel free to stay on or leave. It might be boring to you. I'm not sure. So
Never
thank you
is.
so much for your time.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you. Okay. So the next thing on the agenda is, well, firstly, everyone who's here and everyone watching this recording, hopefully watching this recording, please schedule based off of Lisa's Calendly so we can get the training scheduled to people here and watching from the future. So new business, we're going to talk about paying Haley to take meeting minutes. I'm all for it. John wanted to have a conversation additionally of funding and things like that for that. I think that there's going to be a little bit more conversation that happens outside. And since we don't have a quorum at the moment, I think it'd be best just to move on from that for the moment, but potentially be open to approving this like conditionally or email in order to do it and then voting on it at either the January or February meeting, whenever it ends up falling. I could call it a good conversation. What do you guys think about that?
And I think we should get it out of the way as soon as possible.
I
So
do too. Yeah,
instead of
I
waiting
agree.
until the January meeting, just the email saying that we approve it. And that's,
Yeah. Yeah, I know John
We
asked
still
questions
have
too
to
about,
approve it.
yeah,
We would still have to approve it physically at the January meeting, but we can have conversation.
like a conditional or like a conversation or figure out what we're gonna do. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. The other things we want to discuss, and Summer came with some ideas, but I know we're kind of running out of time here. So maybe this would be a thing for January, but we really need to get ideas together for a work plan and budget to try to request funding either from the general fund or whichever other fund we want, like the capital improvement projects or whatever. We need to be able to request money for it. And so there were several things that were brought up, like celebrations and events, potentially like artist in residence program, which we maybe don't have all the specifics on, but I know there's several nonprofits also around the city of Akron that probably be willing to help with administrating or even matching funds for something like that, which could be something that's interesting to the city too. And when we're already going to ask for money. And I don't want to bring too many people in to make it complicated to make the ask. But if you guys actually have ideas about things you would want to see the Public Art Commission do that like falls under our scope, or you have ideas about it, we would like you guys to like present those ideas. I know Jay's not gonna have any issues with that. She always comes with ideas for like every meeting, so she has like a ton. But for everyone else, basically, come with like a ton of meetings about things we could do like as the commission that you think would be cool. Even ideas for specific types of like celebrations or things like that. Personally, I know that one of the issues that Katz originally presented and one of the goals of the original goals and strategies of the commission was to be able to start something like an artist in residence program that's funded through the city of Akron, through like the fund, through appropriations, which would be very cool. If we could just get that set up and reoccurring even outside of being able to receive the TIF money in the future. So that's something I'd be looking into and I would like to maybe like do a small write-up on and present to you guys. But we need to like know an amount of money, the kind of things we want to fund in the work plan, and then get that information to Summer so she can actually like help to make that request on our behalf. Does anyone have any questions on that or like any ideas or comments that you want to present for like the 2025 work plan?
It sounds good. I think what you just said. Yeah, let's get on it. We've been talking a lot. It's time for us to, stop talking about it, be about it.
Yeah.
So I'm ready.
I feel like Eric says that actually. That's his catchphrase every commission meeting. Eric is like, we've been talking about it. Got to do it.
Every year we are supposed to have a work plan. So we're a little bit behind the ball because this should have been the meeting that we could do it.
Yeah.
But I think, Andy, if you create a base of the work plan of what you've seen in the past, and then
Sure.
we need to start talking through email. We're not voting, but we're able to have conversations to work on the work plan and then come to vote. Because
Yeah.
our meeting should not always be conversation about this and the other. We should already have a plan and we should be able to vote on it and move forward. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, completely agree. The only other thing I had was the update on the speech. I created presentation materials in a PowerPoint. I have that saved. So if we give a presentation or overview anytime moving into the future, I'm a consultant, so I love PowerPoint decks. So I use Triad's branding guide and basically created this asset for the commission. I'm gonna go ahead and share that with everyone after the meeting. So you guys have something. If you ever want to like share the presentation, you guys have some like
Yeah.
actual like information you can share with somebody that's more concise. So that'd be cool. I don't really have anything else on that.
I
It
can't
was
wait to
fun.
see it.
Other than that, does anyone have any events coming up they want to share about?
Yes, so tomorrow, I don't know if everyone's aware, but tomorrow the Arts Forward fundraiser. I am on the committee or panel, I guess you say, because I was one of the artists that received the funding for the Art Forward they're having a fundraiser tomorrow at the house at 3:30. And I will be presenting and, talking about what Assuager has done and the impact we have made. I'd love to see you guys come out if you learn more about what I've been doing and the other fantastic artists, what
Tomorrow, you
we've been
said?
doing. Tomorrow at the house at
Okay.
3:30. I'll send you the information via email. So I'll let everybody know. But if you guys can make it, I have I got a code too if you need one. But yeah, if y'all can make it, I would really love to see y'all faces.
Perfect. Yeah, send the information. I'll push it out. Or you can just send it out to everybody. That'd be good.
Awesome. Roberta, do you have anything? Oh, okay. I don't have anything either. Summer, are there any public comments?
No public comments.
Okay, so no any public comments. I would say we would motion to adjourn, but we don't have quorum to motion to adjourn. So I think we have to do it at the beginning of next meeting, right, Summer?
Yeah, so no quorum, so you'll just adjourn the meeting.
Okay, yeah.
And
So
then
we'll just
do the
adjourn
minutes.
the December 11th, 2024 meeting here, and we'll review the meeting minutes. Hopefully everyone watches this video back. Hello, if you're watching. The passcode is the weasel runs at midnight. I'm going to ask you at the next meeting if you knew the passcode from this meeting at the end of the video, which would show that you watched all the way back. So you, Roberta and Jessica, you know the weasel runs at midnight. That's the passcode.
I know. I remember that.
Okay.
I
Oh
need to
boy.
get going, guys.
All right.
All right.
Happy holidays, everyone. Talk to you
You
soon.
too.
Okay. Thank you.